Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I'm going to show you how to paint this lovely orchid. It's actually here in real life. I'm going to set it up on my shelf so I can see it while I draw it. It's in bloom. You may remember that from last Mother's Day. That was the orchid my sister got me, and I painted it in oils because I was afraid that I would kill it before it ever bloomed again, but luckily it survived. So we're going to start off by sketching with watercolor pencil, and I'm working on 140-pound watercolor paper. This is by Canson. It's a Canson Montville. So I'm making a pretty, this is bigger than life. I'm making, I'm just kind of dotting out the perimeter of my petals. And I'm going to draw this kind of dark. I'm using a yellow pencil, but I want you to be able to see what I'm drawing. I think that'll show it pretty well. So I'm just kind of making this little U in here in the center of this shape that I've made, and I'm going to put in these big side petals. They're kind of smooth, a little dip on the outside, and I'm just going to swoop it back up. So we got one. It almost looks like an elephant ear, if you or a big mouse ear or something. I always try to figure out what my things look like. So, you know, where you might think, well, flower petal's hard, but a mouse ear is easy to draw. You know, just like dolphins look like bananas. You try to think of like an easy way to draw something. And I've got this kind of a longer, pointier petal up here in the back. Got a couple little side petals like this. And something I'm considering, actually I do have an orchid, if you have a hard time drawing this, I'll put a link below. I do have a very similar orchid illustration digital stamp in my shop, Lindsay Stamp Stuff at my Graphico. I know some of you guys love to draw right along with me, and some of you guys would rather be able to buy a digital stamp. And the nice thing about that is you can actually print it and color it with Copic markers and do other things with it, because it's not just a sketch, it's more of a well-rendered pen and ink drawing, so it's a little bit more useful, I think, than just, you know, just like a painting pattern. Alright, so I got that first blossom in there, and then I'm just going to kind of put out little branches attached to, and then I'm just going to put out a couple buds. I think I'm just going to focus on this one flower here, so maybe I'll put this one here. There's one that's just almost, it's just threatening to open there, so I want to get that there. It's like you can kind of see the petals wanting to come open, and then put a couple other little ones where you just got the smaller blossoms that haven't quite made it yet. And I'm really excited that my plant came back to life. Well, I mean, it's not that it was dead. It had leaves on it all winter. I did what it said, like, you know, soak it in water for 5 minutes once a week, and it worked great. Alright, so I may put a background in, I may not, I'm not sure. I do want to use my new core. Why do I want to, it's pronounced core, but it's Q-O-R. It's the new paints by Golden, and I want to show you this because I did a demonstration and a review the first time I ever used them, and I let them dry, and then I actually could close the palette and none of the paint flaked out. It has that different weird binder called Aquazol, which seems to bind better than gum arabic, so it hasn't, like, I've been able to close my tin right up with stuff in it, and I haven't had any of it like get onto the bottom, so the bottom's clean and I haven't wiped it out or anything. So I'm kind of excited about that. I'm also going to use a sharp pink, I just sharpened it, watercolor pencil that I'll be doing some details with. So I think that, you know, it's going to be a little multimedia. Hope it's not too bright. I'm using the a different feature than I normally use on my camera, so hopefully it's not too bright and you can see everything. You never know, you know, because I was looking at my monitor, it just looks so dark up here, and I still definitely, there's a learning curve to shooting my video upstairs. And I have a big bright window next to me, bright from all that lovely snow that's being reflected. And I think spring is tomorrow, isn't it? I don't know. When this video actually comes out, it'll probably be spring, the first day of spring. I don't know. Alright, so I'm just liquefying this. I'm wanting some of that pigment from my watercolor pencils, move and groove there. And I'm going to add in this yellow color. Let me just look at the thing. This is called, no, what is this one? This is an orange. This is quinacridone gold. And I'm just going to add this in here and give it kind of like pretty much a base of this color. I'm not really going into the center too much. These petals are fairly yellow for a background, and then they've got this beautiful pink veining on them. So I'm just in a, you know, 1/2-inch flat brush here, just filling in the large petals. And I can also just kind of wiggle it along the edges and liquefy any of that watercolor pencil pigment that I have there. And I'm using very little paint. That's one thing I'm impressed about these paints. I actually have the other sets in a shopping cart. I'm really considering purchasing the other introductory sets. And I was mistaken. I was saying that these start at $11. The tubes are actually twice as big. These are 5 milliliters and the ones for sale are 11 milliliters. So I was mistaken when I said that. I still think the introductory ones are a great value, but if you did buy them by the tubes, you'd be getting bigger tubes. So I just want to make sure that was clear if anybody was wondering. And believe me, when I said it the last time, I was mistaken. I just want you guys to know that. All right, so now I'm gonna, while the paper's still wet, I'm gonna take my nice sharp pencil, and you do have to like kind of pay attention because you are going to be drawing these veins, and they are going to be, you know, once you draw onto wet paper with a watercolor pencil, those lines are very difficult to lift and soften later. So you want to make sure that you know what you're doing, or that you're confident with your lines and you're putting the lines down the way you want them to remain. And I've got more concentrated lines towards the outside. I mean, this is just such an easy technique. I'm hoping my paper stays wet enough while I'm doing this. And I'm just sketching in here. So I'm putting more of these little feathering lines out towards the end because that's where I see more of a concentration of that color. But I mean, this just seems like the best way to get those defined, strikingly defined pink veining lines on top of yellow without creating mud or without mixing in with colors where I don't want them. And then I can go right in with just the finest of lines right around the edges. And these are the Prima watercolor pencils I got from Hallmark Scrapbook. I will put a link below, and I just want to let you know I'm putting a link to Hallmark Scrapbook. They set up an affiliate account for me, so if you do click my link on this video, I will be getting a small percentage of your sale. I just want to put that out there so you know about it. So, you know, it is a way to support my channel if you want to, and if you don't, well then, you don't have to. That Lindsay, I don't like her. I don't want her getting any money. I'm not clicking that link. That's fine. Okay, and then our paper is drying up pretty quick, but I'm going to do the same thing right over here because I want to make sure at least those two have about the same amount of veining, at least that the techniques are pretty similar. And you could wash over it with water again if you needed to. But I'm just going to try to work quickly and get all of that in there. And, you know, don't worry about drawing every little line on there. You just want to get the impression because your eyes don't see every little detail and every little line. And, you know, if you have watercolor pencils of another brand, they're going to work just fine. You do not need to have these particular watercolor pencils. I'm using them because they're what happened to me on my desk up here. I do think they're good quality. But if you have another brand, go ahead and use those. There's, you know, there's a lot of really good brands out there, just like watercolor paint. Just like, you know, if you have paint you're happy with, you do not need to rush out and buy this core paint by Golden. I just was curious about it, and I had an art supply order to make anyway, so I decided that I would try it out. Now, my paper has dried, so what I'm going to do is actually dip my pencil really quickly into my water, and that's going to get some really juicy, inky paint right there on the end, so I'll be able to finish up this petal and be able to make those marks that I want. Alright, so I just basically wanted to make sure that both of these were going to behave very similar. It's important these two kind of match closely because they are, because they would be the same on a flower. Nature is very symmetrical. Okay, and there you can see where it got really dark where I had a blob of water. Okay, so I'll be doing about the same. I'll probably rewash over those other petals and do the same thing. But I also want to add a little bit of pinker color in there, and what I'm going to do is switch to a smaller round. Actually, I think I'm going to use my little cat's tongue brush because I like that. And I'm going to add some quinacridone magenta, which is another one from that introductory Golden set. Okay. And I got my Goldens at Jerry's Artorama. I had a good coupon and I had to stock up on some other supplies, and these were not eligible for the coupon because they were like a, you know, lowest price product or whatever, but I actually saw them cheaper at a store which I have never shopped at, called the MerriArtist. So that might be an option too. They seem to have really good prices on a lot of stuff. So see, look at that petal next to that one. I think that really adds a lot of character to that. Now I'm going to go around the edge with just a little clear water here, kind of over where we put the kind of smaller marks, and then I'm going to go back in with this, more of this magenta. There, I think it's a really nice effect. I will do the same thing, and then, oh, and here, now if you're thinking, oh, I wish I put more of those lines in, we can go in now, because the paper's wet again, and you can get those really intense veins again. So if you feel like you kind of missed the boat, go ahead and do it now. Go ahead and add some more. And you can, I mean, because that one's going to keep. You can leave that one there. It's fine, because we're not, it's not, this technique is not determinant. You know, when we put that magenta in, we can do that anytime. So get these, any extra veins you want in right now while you've got that damp paper. There. So see how it looks much more finished and much more realistic next to the other one. So we're going to go over here and do the same thing. Oh, and when if you do need to sharpen your pencil, let it dry completely before you do that, because you will, if you don't, it could break the lead off and you could waste it and damage your pencil. So, little tip for you. You always want to wait till anytime anything is wet, whether it's paper or your pencils or whatever, you run a risk of damaging it. Just like your own hair, anything you do to it while it's wet is more likely to damage it. I don't know if you ever heard that or not, but it is true. You weaken it, it's more malleable. Right, so I don't like that hard edge, so I'm just going to wet the whole petal again. And then I'm going to go in with my magenta around the edges. I do like this high chroma set. I got the high chroma set because I am always striving for brighter watercolors. They also have like an introductory set and an earth tone set, and they have a set of 12, and I think the set of 12 might have some duplicates between the other 6 sets, but the set of 12 was like $45, and I was just like, you know, I'd rather risk $24 and see what I think about this. And I also knew it would be useful because I could share my findings with you guys, and I figure if I risk $24 then and something's awesome, well, great. But if I risk $24 and something's not so great, or it doesn't perform the way we expect it to, then at least you guys aren't gonna waste your $24, and chances are enough of you guys are gonna watch the video that I'll make that much on ad revenue anyway, so it's kind of a wash. But you know, so I do sometimes get people saying, why are you buying all that stuff? What a waste. You already have this, you already have that. Well, that's part of the reason why. I get asked people ask me what I think of these products, and if I've never tried them, you know, enough people ask me about something, chances are I'm going to try it because there's an interest out there. There are people that, you know, they want to know. It's going to be, you know, a useful video for you guys. So granted, I make videos for my own fun and enjoyment, but I definitely want you guys to get something out of it. I'm just using that magenta on these the center parts of the flowers, and I have to say I just don't know the names, proper names of things. I don't know the proper names of these flowers, or these parts of the flowers. Whoops, I went outside the lines there. You know what we're gonna do? We're just gonna make that piece a little bit bigger. There we go. See, there are no mistakes in watercolor painting. Just opportunities for enhancement. Alright, and I think I want to deepen this color, and this is a great opportunity to get into that dioxin blah, 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 violet. What do we call it? It is dioxazine purple. We're going to add a little bit of that in there. I really am a big believer of you working with a limited palette. I like sticking to 5 or 6 colors in a painting, excuse me, because it will it'll really strengthen your skills as an artist and your ability to mix. And so that's why I don't encourage someone to rush out and buy everything that their heart desires right off the bat, even though I, you know, have very little restraint, it seems like sometimes, because you're going to be a better paint mixer if you restrain a little bit. Now, because these petals are wet, actually, you know, I'm going to take a sneaky peek here at this flower. I'm just going to grab it over. We're going to take a look together. There's not very much veining, just a little bit of veining on that little front part. And my light's a little direct and harsh there, so you probably couldn't see that, but I'm going to add that center vein in there. and just a little bit, very subtle veining. Well, this is really soupy and wet, so some of it will kind of fade out, and I want to define the edges a little bit. So, you know, watercolor pencils can be such a wonderful tool to add to your, to enhance your paintings and whatnot. Okay. And someone posted on my last video, you talk too much. Yeah, I do. I'm sorry. I know. I'm just thinking about that. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm really like, gosh, woman, less chatting, more painting. All right, so I'm going to take some of this green gold that was in the intro set, and I'm going to paint my stem here because I just want to do something while that is drying. And it's a super, super vivid green. Now, I do want to mention this because I found that site, the MerriArtist. I'll put a link below. I'm not affiliated with them or anything, but the thing I really liked about their site is, like, if you go to an art supply store, which there aren't very many around nowadays, you can pick up a bottle of paint. You can pick up a tube of paint and you can look at it and see how light fast something is, and see how, I'm going to add a little bit of this blue on there, see what this does to the green. You can see what pigments are in the paint, and you can see if a paint is a single pigment color, which I prefer, or if a paint is a multiple pigment color. And you don't always have the information online, but what I really like, because I was looking at the M. Graham paints because they have a good price on it, and they're still my favorites, the M. Graham paints. They had all that information about what pigments were in each of the colors. So I saw this gorgeous paint. I was actually looking at the Daniel Smith line. This was gorgeous. Oh my gosh, it was this green, but this green was so vibrant, and you saw these blue undertones and everything. And I'm looking at it, and the pigments were raw sienna and phthalo cyan blue. And I'm like, well, I can make that. I have that. And I really don't like to buy multiple pigment colors because you're more limited, and the more you mix those out, the more muddy they're going to get, where you can like start with the fresher colors. And that's purple, by the way. I just added that purple into that gold because it was a really blue purple, so I knew it was going to give me kind of earthy green. So knowing that information before you buy, you can like really spend your money wisely and get those pure pigment colors, because I mean, paint companies are going to make whatever people will buy, and you're going to get much more bang for your buck if you buy pure pigment colors. So, you know, that's why, you know, a paint company that used to only have like a few, you know, like maybe 20 colors now has, you know, 60 colors in their palette. People will buy them. I mean, that's it, plain and simple. So you're much better off with like watercolors, sticking with the pure pigments. I mean, things like pastel and colored pencil, you kind of need more colors to achieve the blending, but something that's so fluid like watercolor, oil painting, even acrylics, some stuff that you can mix, you can do really, really well by, and I'm mixing the blue that's in the kit, which is like a turquoise, it's cobalt teal rather. I'm mixing that with my green gold to get this lovely spring green here. But anyways, I just wanted to give you that information because I thought that was really cool. The website isn't as glossy and pretty as like Cheap Joe's or Blick, but I feel like it's got more information if you're willing to sit down and kind of look through it, and that's what I like. I want to know what I'm spending my money on, and you know, that's something like like I didn't know what the pigments were in these. I knew what the colors were. I could have, you know, guessed what the pigments were, but it's nice to find a place that has that information on two paints. Okay, I think I'm actually going to grab a green pencil to kind of to add some veining and stuff in here. So let's see, what do we have here? I want a really earthy one. Let's try this one right here. And I think I will sharpen it actually, just to make sure I have the nice detail. Oh my, can you believe it's been 18 minutes already? You probably can. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, time is flying today. Kids got out of school early today, get parent-teacher conferences. I'm just putting in my kind of some sketchy lines. I like sketchy lines. You don't have to do this. You don't, you know. I do want to make sure I don't cover up too much of that pretty mixing. I love how they're kind of mixing and mingling in there. Alright, now we're going to go back to the flower, and we're going to do this pretty much the same technique on these other three petals. I'm going to wet them one at a time though, because my paint dried so quickly the last time. So let's go and wet this one in behind. And I'm actually going to add some shading here. Now the petal is yellow, so what I'm going to do for a shadow color, I'm going to do a light wash. I'm going to use that, glaze it right over that, and we'll see if it's not super bright, then it'll be great. If not, we might need to add a little bit of the yellow into it. I think it'll be fine. And it can help me really define the edge of the other petals, because this is kind of the shadow color. The core watercolors have a nice flow that I'm happy with. Okay, and I want to get some of that magenta. I might as well do that in this step here. Get that right there in the middle. It'll help tone down the purple a little bit too, because the purple is going to gonna kind of brown out. And I'm going to do a little bit of that magenta up along the edges. And I just want to show you, I only put like a tiny little drop on my palette the other day, and that's what I'm still working on. Okay, so I don't feel like I've wasted any paint. I feel like it's really, you know, it's redrying in the palette, and I'm able to get like every drop out. And I did this little, I was just chit-chatting on the phone with my friend Kathy yesterday, and I was just playing with the colors while we were chatting. So I mean, it goes a long way, and they're just kind of thin veils of color. All right, so now I'm going to do the same thing with my veining. I'll start with that center vein and kind of work my way out. If you're getting any puddles that are bothering you, then you can gently like wipe your brush off and just set your brush in the puddle. I really don't think we're going to have too much of a problem with that. What do you think? Should I do a background on this? I'm not sure. And I do appreciate everybody that's answering at this on the screen, because I swear I can get those vibes and decide what I want to do. All right, I'm just gonna add a few more little doohickeys there, and maybe just a few other little veins in here. All right, and if I feel like anything's too dark or I want to highlight, I can take a tissue and just kind of gently lift, just gently blot. All right, now we're going to skim down to these guys here. We're going to do them one at a time. It's going to be the same technique for each of them. And I think I'll either a round or a cat's tongue brush. Go ahead and wet to the petal. This is going to be a longer tutorial. Actually, I was thinking, well, can always voice this over, but I like to narrate it as well, and that way if I feel like the narration wasn't going good, or you know, maybe I got interrupted and I just couldn't get back to the painting, or whatever, something, or my flow was interrupted, then I could always voice it over after. But I like having that option, because sometimes I like the live narration, because there's things I wouldn't think about mentioning in the voiceover. Like if I voiced it over, I would forget that I got myself into some trouble at a certain spot, and I would forget to mention how to get yourself out of that trouble, or stuff like that. And sometimes I notice that, like when I'm watching like a kind of a sped up version or a painting tutorial from somebody. Oh, like there's the phone. Hold on a minute. Okay, I'm back. It was a call from my dear friend. I wanted to chat with her, so I actually finished up that petal, well, because if I let it dry, it wasn't going to, my veining wasn't going to work. But we're going to do the same thing on that one, so don't worry about that. Actually, we'll do that first. And then I realized that this looks really vacant here, and there's actually another one of these blossoms, like bloomed back here, but it's facing the other way. So it will also be a good opportunity to show you how this will look from behind, and we'll put it there, and it's going to balance this out a little bit, because right now it looks like it's like this is really heavy, this is really heavy, there should be something there anyway, and there is in real life. So we're gonna do that, but first we will do this petal together, and we're gonna wet it with water. So I know I just showed you that step, so it's hard to keep the continuity. That's why I sometimes think, okay, I'm gonna voice this over if I've been interrupted too many times, because it's hard to keep that flow for you. So I've actually, it's been like about 20 minutes 20 minutes gap from like a couple seconds ago on this video. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and put that purple in here. Okay, so I'm still using the same colors I have been using. And you can see how it really, it's a lively shadow. Should I zoom in a little bit? Maybe I'll zoom in a little bit. I like to have that little, this little card here, because it helps my camera decide what's dark and what's light. So I'm just going to lay that down there so my camera can have an easier time deciphering. And I'm going to put a little bit of pink in there. My friend Sue Cole asked me, why'd you have that card in there? One of my videos. And that's the reason why. And I'm going to add a little bit of that pink over here. And something I've noticed about the core watercolors is that they almost repel each other. Like if you look here, I want to show you this mix I did, this dark gray mix I did with using all the colors the other day. I'm not sure if you can see it too well, but there's like almost like little rings, and you can see the different colors in the rings. Like as it dried, it's like the colors wanted to break apart, like the yellows and the purples and the greens and the reds. It's like they almost wanted to repel each other. And I think having those pigment particles next to each other like that make your shadows really vibrant. Of course, I'm not a chemist or anything. That's just my, you know, artist eyes opinion. But it's like I'm dipping from one color to the next, not necessarily rinsing my brush in between, and yet my colors feel very lively. Okay, I think I will point this pencil a little bit. It's just sharpening it enough so that I can really get in there with detail. And yeah, it is wasting a little bit of the colored lead, but it's really going to save us some time here. And I'm going to start with that pronounced center vein, and then I'm going to go kind of working. As I work out, you'll notice that in nature, things like this veining, it's following the contour of my petal. You notice that? See how it's kind of bending as it gets to the edge, it's bending towards the edges of our petals. And then I just want to put in these little feathery hair lines here in the edge. I definitely want to get those in before my paper dries, and then I can start to add these other little, just little veiny lines. And I can always glaze in with more shadows after. I think that the core paints tend to stain the paper a little bit more, and they're more difficult to lift. They do sell a lifting medium. I'm not a really big fan of using like masking fluids and mediums with my watercolor. I like the immediacy. I don't like to play in too much with my watercolors. So, you know, it's an option there if that's something that's interesting to you. All right, now I feel like it's a little harsh in here. And I think I want to add some of that yellow in here around the purple, because I feel like it needs something, but I don't think it needs more dark. I think it needs to actually be brightened up a little bit. And I'm going to add a little bit of magenta right in around here. I'm going to keep that center pretty white for right now. And just kind of bring a little bit of that magenta down to the tip of it. And we'll let that dry. And now we'll sketch on that other flower I was telling you about. We're just going to zoom out. And we'll sketch it kind of like right here. And I'm going to do that with my yellow pencil. And I am just going to come kind of just peeking over. I'm just going to draw a light circle. I can wash it out with some, I think I might do like a teal background on this. I'm really thinking that would be lovely. Okay, so that's about how, I'm just going to draw it in the air. That's about how big I want my flower to be. And then I'll draw my petals a little bit darker for you. So the stem's going to come off and kind of come in like that. All right, that's the center of the flower. And so I'm going to do the 3 main petals, and that would be that, that, that. So from the back, you see those more pronounced. Okay, so that's what we're putting in right now. And then we'll get these other 2 guys on the side, which are fatter, more rounder petals. There we go. Okay, so we've got that flower in there. I think that's really going to help balance us out a little bit. Let's do the wash of yellow over that. Use whatever brush you're comfortable with. I've just got like a flat here. I'm going to brush it all over with water and just put in my what is that? Oh, what do we call that color? Was it gold? It was quinacridone gold. And you know what? The thing is, do this with whatever colors you prefer. You can use a whole different palette. It's completely up to you. The important thing is to get your values right. The colors really don't matter as much as your values, and that's how light or dark something is. You could do this in like oranges and purples, and if your values are right, it's going to look fine. Okay, so we're going to grab some of this, and I'm just taking a quick peek at the colors. I might add a little bit of magenta in there too. Just want to get the basic color in there. Yep, I'll do a little bit of magenta. Just do a little bit on the corner of my brush. I don't want to get too much in there, so just that little corner has magenta on it. I think I'm just going to wiggle a little bit. I'm looking at like the side of this petal has quite a bit. Just going to tap it in. Okay, see, I just get, it's kind of saying, okay, on the other side of that flower, there is some veining. I don't want it to super, I don't want it to stand out a lot. I just want it to kind of be kind of like, okay, this is kind of blurry. It's further away. I can tell that's the same kind of flower. There's some veining in there, but I really can't see all of it. It's just giving me that, that really light suggestion of color. And then I am going to go back in with my yellow pencil on this wet paper rather, and just redefine those main 3 petals. And I'll use this green pencil that I did the stem with. I think I did the stem with it when I was on the, hope I didn't do that when I was on the phone. Well, it doesn't matter if I did it when I was on the phone or not. I'm doing it now. So add a little bit of that. So a little brush just to bring it out a little bit. And then sometimes what I like to do if I've used something different like a pencil or I've introduced something new is I'll just take a little bit of that color on my brush and maybe just add it lightly in a couple places just to kind of help harmonize it, cross-pollinate my colors there. There. Okay, I like that. I think that has a lot more balance. You can let me know what you think on that. And I think I want to mix up some colors here to add to my flowers. I'm going to take that, I'm going to take the green gold, and you can see I'm just in the corner of the picture there, the corner of the frame. You can see where I'm mixing it in that little puddle. Got a little purple in there. Grab a little bit of that. Grab a little bit of the blue. That's a little much. Let's grab a little more purple in there, see what that does. And that's way too much. Holy cow, that purple is strong. Let's, what is that green gold? Put it right next door. I might move this over so you can see it a little better. A little touch of that. There we go. So I've got kind of like this khaki green there. And see, you're less likely to get mud if you're keeping a limited palette because there's only, you know, it's harder to make mud when you've got a limited colors. Now I'm going through, I'm just adding some detail on some of these. I've not done anything with my hair, so if my head like pops into frame and you see this crazy frizzy blonde mass of Brillo pad, that would be my freshly washed, unblow dried, crazy mop of hair. I'm just putting the details here. You can add any sort of details you want to the stem. Shadow on the bottom half is always a good idea. Now I really think I want to do a background. Now this could be finished just the way it is if you like, and if that's all you want to see, that's fine. You could stop the video right here, but I think I really just want a very soft teal background. I'm going to wet my paper. I'm going to be careful to go around my composition. I'm going to use a big brush and just going to, I actually don't want a hard edge background, so I'm just going to be oh, you know what? I've got a cat hair in here. I think the cat was drinking from my water bucket again. I'm just going to go around my image as carefully as I can. I don't have to go right up to it because when I go in with my charged brush, my fully loaded brush, I can actually get really close to it then. I might add some purple to the background. Or I might just keep it like a soft teal. And also the thing I like about this, I can kind of, if I have some watercolor pencil areas where I've sketched, I can just kind of wiggle my brush in there and it's going to dissolve them and pull them away. These primas are very easily soluble. So I like that. Because I'm just kind of brushing over it with a little wiggle. I'm not doing anything that's going to damage my watercolor brush here. So you don't want to scrub like aggressively with your watercolor brush, but a little wiggle isn't going to hurt anything. There we go. So I've been hearing from most of you guys in the comments that you don't mind the longer videos. That's all right. So I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you so much. Thank you for all the wonderful supportive comments. They are always appreciated. And sometimes it's just the thing I need to hear in a certain day because something's, you know, might be going on and I might be all and that's just what I need to hear. Okay. And I'm working right out of a pad of watercolor paper. I haven't taped it down or clipped it down or anything, so it is, you know, warping a little bit, but I think it's in dry flat enough that I'm not worried about it. Okay, so I'm going to go in, I think I'm going to use this flat brush because I can control it pretty well. I'm going in with my cobalt teal. I'm gonna add it pretty close to my flower. And the thing I do like about these paints is that they're very fluid. You might need more water if your paints aren't quite so fluid. A lot of like your artist quality paints are pretty fluid usually. Sometimes the student quality paints, I think because of the amount of filler they have in them to keep the price down, is that the trade-off is that they tend not to be so fluid. Okay, I've got a little bit of a hard edge there, so I'm just going to pull that out, make sure I'm pulling it into an area with plenty of water. I think I also wanted the high chroma set because it has been so darn wintry. Oh, you know what? Maybe I'll switch to a round. I think my round actually has just enough control and also will hold more paint, so I'll switch to that. I'm really happy with how just that little dollop of paints I squeezed out the other day works so well. And I have to say I really prefer working with the core paints dry, letting them dry and working from them dry than I do working from them wet. So if you've gotten some paints and you tried it and you tried them wet right out of the tube, let them dry and try them dried out. I think that you might enjoy them more because, well, for one, you're not wasting any, and you can also really control how much you get, and I find that they reconstitute very easily. They dried up really quick on my palette. I was very impressed. I was kind of afraid that I might be wasting the paint and it was going to like flake off, but from the research that I looked online, now granted all the research is by Golden, the paint company, is that the binder is much more durable than gum arabic, like less likely to flake if you were to use it in a thick application, which I'm not, so I didn't really think that was that important, but the fact that it doesn't want to flake off the palette is certainly really awesome. Okay, so I'm just re-wetting some areas that dried up on me before I get to them, because it's hard to go in and re-wet an area with paint. It wants to streak sometimes, so I just want to make sure that that's really, really wet. I think that's what people have a hard time with. Then they say watercolor, if you don't get it right the first time, you're in trouble. It's just that, yeah, it can tend to get streaky if you decide to go over it. And I'm tipping my my paper a bit, as you can see, to help guide my paint flow. You want to see my palette while I'm doing this? Let's try that. Maybe that will be helpful. There we go. You can just kind of see it as I'm working. So I'm having no problem getting that paint to reconstitute. You can help define your edges. It's a really good idea if you're doing a really light colored flower too, if you're doing white, because the white is the white of your paper in watercolor. So if you're doing a white flower, it can be very difficult to get that definition and to make your flower stand out. I need to make that a little bit lighter. And you may consider having more background, having deeper colors behind your larger objects, which will cast more of like a shadow, because this teal does kind of mimic like a shadow, maybe on a white wall or something. In a nice coastal, tropical setting. You get the coastal breezes coming through the window, not the snowbanks. Honestly, I'm looking out my window. I've got a door in my studio. I've got two doors in here. It's my office. And I'm standing here, and the door hasn't been open all winter because there's too much snow next to it. The snow, I'm not kidding you, would be up to my shoulder out that back door. It probably will not be melted until June. I probably won't be able to get out that door till June. That's awful. Alright, I'm pretty happy with that. And let's just take a look at our finished picture. Any place, if you have any rough spots, any spots in your background you're not quite happy with it, you could go in and just kind of soften a little bit. If you want some more texture in the background, you could spray it with a little water. If you see any areas that you feel are not complete, like here, I feel like there's a little bit too much hard white next to those two flowers, I can go in and add a little pigment to that and help divide it from the other flower a little bit, maybe a little bit of gold in there, help push it back. But I wouldn't fuss with it too much because, you know, you want it to stay fresh. You want it to have that nice fresh feeling to it. I think I want a little bit of purple in there maybe to help dull that down, push it back. There we go. And then the only thing left after it's dry, of course, is to sign your name. I'll probably do mine in pink, and I'll probably do it right over here. And I could do that with a pencil, with a watercolor pencil, but I tend to prefer a brush signature. It might be dry enough. We can try that. Oh, if not, I'll just ruin it. That's the end of the video. You forgive me, right? I think we're all, let's just see. We'll do an L. We'll see if the L will feather. It's gonna be fine. Lindsay. I like a messy brush signature. Usually. Weirich. There we go. 2015. And there we go, one more to go throw in the shop. go put for sale in the shop. And there is how to paint an orchid in watercolor using the brand new core watercolors from Golden Paint Supply. I want to thank you so much for watching. Anything I mentioned should be in the video description. If I forgot something, please leave me a comment and let me know. I would appreciate a thumbs up. And if you're not a subscriber already and you'd like to be, hit that subscribe button. And as always, share it with your friends. Share it on Pinterest and Facebook and Twitter and wherever you share things, because that's really what helps my channel the most, is you guys sharing it with your friends, so I can share the love of painting with everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.